Hello, I'm David Marler, and today we're going to be talking about noun phrases for syntax. Now, today what we're going to learn is how to analyze and parse noun phrases. So, to take a noun phrase and bring it all the way down to the lowest level, that's where we bring it down to, say, determining whether it's a noun, what's an adjective, etc. And what we're going to look at is using the terms determiner, pre-modifier, head, and post-modifier. So at the end of this mini lecture, you should be able to do this. Now, the way that this lecture is going to work is that you're going to have to pause it so that you can parse the sentences on your own. Now, the first sentence that we're going to look at and we're going to be using throughout is Jill bought Jane the most beautiful car in the world. So what I want you to do right now is to write down this sentence, and I want you to pause it. Once you've paused it, I want you to then slash the sentence, that is to decide whether it's a subject, predicator, direct object, indirect object, adverbial, etc. And I want you to tell me and analyze it down to the phrase level. So that could, for instance, be a noun phrase, adverb phrase, adjective phrase, prepositional phrase, etc. Pause the video now. So if we look at our sentence, we have Jill bought Jane the most beautiful car in the world. And if we slice or splice the sentence, we get Jill dash bought dash Jane dash the most beautiful car in the world. Because we can say she bought her it, or she bought her that. If we look at it, we can see that Jill is the subject, bought is the predicator, the indirect object is Jane, and the direct object is the most beautiful car in the world. This is because the word buy, or the verb buy, is a ditransitive verb, meaning it requires an indirect object and a direct object. Now, if we go down the phrase level, we can see that Jill is a noun phrase, bought is a verb phrase, Jane is a noun phrase, and the most beautiful car in the world is a noun phrase. And today we're going to be looking at the noun phrases. So the word Jill, Jane, and the most beautiful car in the world are the ones that we're going to be looking at. Now, the first term that we're going to be learning is the term head. And the head in a noun phrase is, of course, always a noun, but it's also the most important noun in the phrase. So in Jill, there's only one word, so the head is, of course, a proper noun, like all names. Then we have Jane, the second noun phrase, and that head is also a proper noun. But if we look at the second or the third noun phrase, the one that's definitely the longest, we can see that there are two nouns in the noun phrase, car and world. So if we think about it, what is the most important word in that noun phrase? Now, the most important word in that noun phrase is, of course, going to be car, because in the world is just letting us know, it's a little bit of hyperbole, and it's really modifying the word car, just like the words most and beautiful. So here we have the most beautiful car in the world, and this is what we're going to look at. Now, we said at the beginning that the head, or the most important word in this long noun phrase, is car, which is a common noun. Now, the second word that we're going to be learning today, the second term, is we're going to be learning what a determiner is. Now, the determiner in a noun phrase is always the word that lets us know how many or who owns it. So in this case, it's the most beautiful car, the car. So the determiner is a definite article. But we can actually say her most beautiful car, and then the determiner is a possessive pronoun. Or we can say, like, for instance, those beautiful cars. We can say a few beautiful cars. So all of these words are determiners because they determine or tell us about the noun. And this is specific to noun phrases because determiners like definite articles or possessive pronouns are only able to be used with nouns. So think of words like those, these, hers, his, ours, the, a. There aren't that many words that can become determiners. You can look in the book for more information about this. You can also see that certain words like quantifiers also always count as determiners. Now, the second two terms that we're going to learn are the other parts of a noun phrase. That's a pre-modifier, which I have written down here as prem, and a post-modifier, which I have written down here as pom, or P-O-M. So if we look right here, an important part to remember is that a noun phrase can have four parts to it. It can have a determiner, it can have a pre-modifier, it always has a head, and it can also have a post-modifier. And that's important to remember because a noun phrase, as we saw with the first two noun phrases, like Jill and Jane, only have one word, so they always have a head. But the most beautiful car in the world can then have four possibilities: a determiner, pre-modifier, which comes before the head, and a post-modifier, which always comes after the head. So it can have these parts, but it doesn't always have to have these three parts. So if we look at it one more time, I want to go to the very beginning and I want to show you exactly what you would be expected to know. So in this sentence here, we have Jill bought Jane the most beautiful car in the world, and we have subject, predicator, indirect object, and direct object. Then we have noun phrase, verb phrase, another noun phrase, and another noun phrase. Now, we then have here at the bottom that we would write it as the, determiner, definite article. Pre-modifier is an adjective phrase because the word is beautiful. We have the head, which is a common noun. And we have a post-modifier, in the world, which is a prepositional phrase. And we can change these sentences and see that actually the structure doesn't change, even though the meaning does. So let's look at, for instance, a car to drive in. So I want you to look right now at the sentence, Jill bought Jane a beautiful car to drive in. I want you to pause it right now, and I want you to parse and analyze the noun phrase, a beautiful car to drive in. So you should have, like all the other sentences, realized that it's subject, predicator, indirect object, and direct object. And just like the other sentences, nothing has changed. Noun phrase, verb phrase, noun phrase, and noun phrase. And also, we now have a beautiful car to drive in. We now see that we have a determiner. It's always going to be there. This time it's a, which is an indirect article. The pre-modifier is now an adjective phrase, even though we've gotten rid of the word most. The head is still the common noun car, but now we have the post-modifier, which has been changed into a non-finite clause. And this is a to-infinitive clause because it is the word to drive in. Remember, a non-finite clause can come in four different forms: the to form, the bare form, the present participle form with ing, or it can come in the past participle form, which would then use, for instance, a word like work would become worked, or a word like be would become been. So this is a non-finite clause. It's not a finite clause because it's not a sentence on its own. But we could change the sentence to make it into a finite clause. So let's have a crash. We now have the sentence, Jill bought Jane a beautiful car that she destroyed in a day. I want you to pause right now and do exactly the same. I want you to slash, analyze, and parse. Okay, so just like in the previous sentences, nothing has changed here. We still have a noun phrase at the end, a beautiful car that she destroyed in a day. But what's changed now is that we now have that the post modifier has been changed into a finite clause. And this is common in all of these sentences. We can tweak the sentences and change significant amounts of words, but still have the same analysis of the sentence. So this should hopefully help you with understanding how finite clauses and also how non-finite clauses work within a noun phrase. You can watch this video again to get some more information and to help you study for the exam. Thank you.